So yeah, okay. So I'm Dr. Tehmina Faisal, and I've been working with the University of Karachi in the Department of Public Administration since about 10 years. For 10 years, I'm working as an assistant professor there at the university. My basic area of expertise is more related to public policy and public administration, and I have done projects in education, and I'm currently doing a project with e-learning also. And unfortunately, Dr. Iraqi was unable to connect, and we're still trying to get him on call. But till he's available, I will just try to explain to you how the system of education works in Pakistan. So students who are from Pakistan, they're pretty much familiar with the education environment here in Pakistan. And we already have a lot of issues existing in Pakistan regarding education. And somehow a weak institutional framework is coupled with a lot of pressure because of COVID, has been a very, very painful situation for people and students and parents and teachers in Pakistan. So the problem is that in Pakistan, we do not have a standardized education system, as in we have various institutions at various levels. We generally, if we just would like to understand the system and how it works, we confine it to three levels of education: the primary level, the secondary level, and the higher education level. So the primary level goes from the from the kindergarten to grade 5, then from grade 6 onwards to grade 11 and 12 we have secondary and higher secondary, and then we have a higher education in which we refer to as uh, in colleges and universities. So this is the basic level of education that we offer throughout the country. That's pretty much similar. But the problem lies with how our system of education varies due to different economic capacities of people, rather. So we have state schools in Pakistan and state colleges and state universities, and we have state owned, we have private institutions, private colleges, private schools, and private universities that are charging a high fee for and are more commercialized forms of education dissemination. So that is also one thing that we are facing. Then we have madrasa schools. These madrasa schools are religious schools which only give religious educations. Now, most of the times, these madrasa schools are more on the framework of hostel life. So kids, they go and stay there and get religious education. These kids are very small. They're not. They are entered and taken admission at the age of 6 to 7 years. So the madrasa system is very, very joint, and it's very compact, and the students have to go and live there. That is the critical point which came forward when we were talking about the impact of COVID-19. And then we have some non-government NGOs, non-government organizations, the NGOs who are sponsoring schools, they're adopted schools. So there are a lot of different kind of categories of schools and universities and colleges that we have here in Pakistan. And all of these schools and colleges and universities may be following different kind of boards. So for typically for the higher education at the university level, we do have our Higher Education Commission, the HEC, that regulates all the universities, either private or state-owned. And there is a regulatory framework that checks out everything. But for school level, primary education and secondary education, the uh, the regulatory framework adjusts, yeah, controls the course outlines maybe, or the number of courses, but they're not regulating the kind of procedures that the private institutions are following to disseminate education. So for one thing, this is how our system works here. Now, due to the disparities in income and due to the disparities in the education quality and the content, because there are different boards we are following here in Pakistan. We adopted the Cambridge board also from UK. We are also we have some schools from the IB system also. We have some schools from our own state boards also. Those include the Sindh Education Board and the federal education boards. And then we have systems that we have adopted different systems from, and the madrasa systems are also there, the religious schools also. So because of all of these disparities, it became really, really difficult for us to move forward and bring up a standardized policy. Rather, I would just share an example lately with all of you. Karachi University is probably the biggest universities of Pakistan. And we just, when we were sitting together and we wanted to come up with a policy for all the departments in the university, which is like we have 44 to 54 departments here at the university. And it was highly, highly difficult to come up with a standardized policy uh, to connect to students, because our students come from such varying backgrounds that it has become really difficult for us to engage them in one single program during COVID through the online sessions. So what we did was we divided those students, somehow developed a rationale and divided them into blocks of relevant blocks where we could have attended them. So for COVID, for Pakistan, COVID has severely hampered the state institutions, because the state schools, in our state schools, students that are there are almost near the poverty line or just above the poverty line. Those who can afford even a little bit of education expense try to get enroll their students in a better school, in a private school, even if they can afford a 1,500 per month education expense. They try to enroll their kids in a private school. So the state schools here are in bad shape. And because of that, since the break lockdown for COVID-19, we have not, the state schools are not taking any classes, no online sessions, no form of homework, no form of engagement, and no form of any academic or extracurricular activity that could connect those students that are studying in the state schools to the teachers or the faculty, or maybe any other the staff, or any kind of activity. It's just a complete shutdown for the state schools. As for private schools, they try to connect through the distance learning and e-learning mechanisms or techniques. They tried to connect in whichever way possible. They tried, initially, they were, obviously it was a big uh, surprise for all of us, shock rather, to come up with something wherein the students do not have to interact with other students, and the students would not be able to interact with the faculty also. So, and all our private schools are also uh, range from different economic statuses. So they cannot afford proper learning management systems. Rather, they were relying on social media channels and social media interactive established channels, channels like Zoom, channels like WhatsApp, channels like maybe emailing students, so as to make sure that they are just able to connect somehow and justify their existence in front of parents. Now, when immediately 1 month after the whole lockdown situation, parents started coming up saying that we would not like to pay the school fee because we don't know how long this COVID will take. And therefore, this would become a serious problem for us, and we cannot afford kids going to school. And I'm pretty sure that you're all aware that families in true, Jam, true. So families in Pakistan are comparatively larger. Uh, I was just doing the research some days back. So usually our households have 3 to 4 kids per household, per family. So affording 3 to 4 kids along with other school expenses was difficult for the parents, and somehow they started dropping out and not paying the fee, owing that, taking the excuse that they are not sending their kids to school, so therefore they would not pay the van fee, they would not pay the private school fee, and it had a really severe, a really bad impact on the educational institutional structure on the whole, because the schools started facing a severe decline in their economic profits, and they had to shift that burden to the faculty members and to the teachers. The moment it was shifted to them, they downsized their schools, and even universities, private universities also downsized or shedded off some great human resources from their staff and faculty, and kept a very small number of people with them for the basic running of the school. This resulted in economic crisis in a lot of households also, because the earning faculty members, which are mostly females in our system, mostly females are uh, joining our education system here in Pakistan. So they were also running members or the operational members of the financial supporting members of the household, and it became really difficult for them to support their families. And this further triggered that they weren't able to pay the fee of their own kids, and then an odd chain started building up, where the canteen runners, the van runners, the van facilities, and the sports teachers, mainly the arts teacher, who are taking, those are extracurricular activities that the parents were not willing to pay for. Because of all of this, our educational system it was already weak due to a lot of other reasons that I've mentioned earlier. But it became, it really suffered badly. The course content and was not able to be disseminated as as it's usually done in class, and it has a very different kind of impact on the students also. A lot of in Pakistan, we generally try to avoid our kids interacting with gadgets before the age of 10 or 12. Uh, the new gadgets, cell phone and tablets and laptops. But owing to COVID, our kids had to interact with these gadgets, and the parents had to be extremely careful on what the kid is watching and how the kid is carrying around the whole activity. So typically, if you're only talking about schools, this was an additional burden on parenting, other than kids staying home, that the parents had to sort of homeschool their kids, despite paying the fee, despite the school being on through online classes or distance learning structures, via procedures, and because of all of that, the excessive burden on the parents further made them frustrated and a bit aggravated. So sort of, if you look at the family element also for the COVID, the female counterparts, because females have more responsibility, home responsibility in our cultures, they sort of ended up being really frustrated, because they had the school, they had to do all the chores, which usually was shared by the school faculty and teachers. And if I come towards the higher education, I recently conducted a survey some 3 months back in April, regarding how students are taking up the higher education systems, and how are the higher education students responding to COVID-19 and the sudden changes. And the students were doing fairly well, typically for higher education. Although they responded that they did not feel as comfortable as in a physical class, but they did like the idea of probably taking classes from wherever location they are available in. And we do have regular students who join the university directly, but we also have students who are working and taking evening classes to upgrade their education. So typically for those students, it was a good option, wherein they could sit at their offices, take an hour's break, and continue with their session every evening or every afternoon, as was their classes schedule. But yes, they did feel that uh, the learning intensity, or the learning was not as good as they had was in the physical classes, for one thing. It was also identified that there are certain tools that we are following or we're using during our online classes. So I tried to find out if the most effective tools that the students are comfortable with, either they would like to go for social media, the most effective tool for connectivity only. So would they like to go for social media, or would they like to be more comfortable with some form of LMS system, the learning management system, or they were okay with being given the distance learning structures wherein you are provided assignments and you are told to complete your assignments. You have consultancies that help you out with working throughout those assignments, but they're not and online recorded classes also, but not actually regular interactive live sessions. And they preferred regular interactive live sessions for the fact that these sessions allowed them with an opportunity to somehow connect
So,
to the faculty, to other students, and to conduct group activities.
Tehmina,